Welcome, everyone, again to another session, another interview session with a seasoned sports professional. This is Dr. Tim Rice coming to you. And as always, really excited to talk to another great sport professional, someone who's been in the business for quite some time and someone I think you can learn a lot from. And this is someone I've known for almost 20 years, Dr. Ed Garrett. And Dr. Garrett is an assistant professor at California Baptist University in Riverside, California. And Dr. Garrett, we're really excited to have you today. Thanks so much.
I appreciate that, Dr. Rice. Honored to be here.
Yeah, and again, everyone that sees these videos knows there's a connection all the time with the people I talk to. But, I was fortunate enough, I actually, it's been almost, it was 2000 when I interviewed for the head men's basketball job at Colorado Christian University. I believe that was the very first time I met Dr. Garrett. We both were not doctors at the time. He was the volleyball coach there at Colorado Christian. And he was ironically enough, a student in the University of the Rockies doctoral program where I've been involved. Of course, now we're Ashford University. And I was very fortunate and blessed because he was in the sport performance psychology program that I lead. But also I was his chair for his dissertation. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But Dr. Garrett, tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us the lowdown. Not even the elevator pitch, but the lowdown on Dr. Garrett.
Wow. Great question. One, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. Anytime I can you get an opportunity to impact students, I love taking advantage of it. I love giving back to just the environment that I call home within the world of academia. So, I've been in athletics for over 30 years. I remember playing ninth grade football here in Southern California, and when we ended our season, we ended up playing the freshman girls volleyball team, and I got hooked into girls volleyball, women's volleyball, and actually quit football to spend time that next year, my sophomore year, coming back and actually volunteering as a volleyball coach for that same team we played in ninth grade. And boy, that was a long time ago. That was over 30 years ago. And so the good Lord has blessed me with multiple stops along the way, from international experience to collegiate experience to high school experience to club experience, coaching-wise. Any opportunity I could gain from bits of nuggets of knowledge from the coaches that I was with, the administrators I was with, I took advantage of. I was very much an entrepreneur, which is one of the things I think you need within this field. You need a drive, you need dedication to get where you want to go. And so my career is filled with my backdrop. You come into Dr. Rice on my background. This is my office actually here at California Baptist University. And I love providing just photos and images, and everything back there is a piece of who I am and where I've been. And it's a great opportunity when the students get a chance to come to my office. They look around, and it's a little goal-setting eye candy is what I like to call it. And they go, wow, you did this with the Colorado Rockies, or you did this with the Olympic team. And it spurs on conversations of, yes, I did that. Now you go do that. And anything I can do to motivate them. So, yeah, it's been a wonderful journey, and a lot of successes, but, boy, a lot of failures. And being very transparent with my students and sharing those mistakes I made in hopes that they can learn from that has been just the wonderful journey I've been on.
Where are you from originally, and where did you go to college?
Yeah, no, I was born and raised. I'm a Southern California boy, and born right here. And went to school at Point Loma Nazarene University out here, beautiful university, where I majored in physical education. And I really thought I would be a coach and a PE teacher. That's really what I kind of dreamed of, maybe going into being an athletic director. But along that journey, a couple masters, a doctorate with you, really steered me towards trying to understand why athletes do what they do. And the blessing I've been on is having been a coach, having been an NCAA official, having been an athlete, and now a parent of athletes, understanding the mindset that athletes go through. I think I hit more than that triad. It's definitely multiple angles of really trying to grasp how to help athletes perform to their best from a cognitive standpoint. So grew up here, traveled quite a bit, as you are well aware, multiple stops from everywhere from North Carolina to Colorado, Florida, California, Arizona. Boy, I've been all over the place. I have my Good Sam's card for a reason, and then just recently, having been in Mississippi, and then taking the position here, been very blessed to be out here. Love being back home, and where California Baptist is taking the sports psychology and sports management fields.
Great. Well, and one thing I want to make sure I correct. I think I said assistant professor is associate professor at Cal Baptist University. I want to make sure I get that correct. Tell me a little bit about, in your daily career path and the things you do on a daily basis, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face every day in what you do, and really maybe what you've done through your career in coaching and being an athletic director, everything else?
Oh, great question, Dr. Rice. Knowing that students are going to listen to this, you're going to make mistakes, and that's fine. I think the biggest challenge you face is learning from those mistakes. They're not ever going to go away. They're not going to stop. You're going to continue to make those. You're going to be, you're just going to scratch your head after a while and go, did I just do that? Did I really just make that mistake? And as you grow in your profession, you want to get to a point where you go, okay, I made that mistake. It's not going to define me. I say within my athletic practice and psych practice all the time, situations don't define you. How you go through situations is what defines your character. And so situations are going to come and go. You're going to make a mistake with your athletic director. You're going to make a mistake with your clients. You're going to make a mistake with XYZ. And being able to learn from those mistakes and chalk them up as valuable learning opportunities. I remember I was in my dissertation, and my second course, Dr. Rice, I plagiarized like nobody's business. Oh my goodness, I think my plagiarization, I'm very real with my students, I share this. I think I was like at 75%, and I knew what I did. I tried to cheat around the system. And that professor called me out. And good thing she did. It lit a fire under me to say, Ed, don't you make this mistake twice. And I took that 0. I didn't whine. I didn't complain. I knew what I did. I was caught. And I think I see a lot of students, because I still teach in the master's programs here, as well as some other universities. And I see students fight that. And it's like, look, own up to your mistakes. You made a mistake. Own up to it. Your percentage is 69%. You didn't write all this yourself. I want to see originality. I want to see thought, and understand the principle behind why professors say that. It's like, we want to see your best work. We want to see your thoughts. We want to see your feelings. We want to see your insights. I don't care what somebody else wrote. Take a snippet of that and then make it your own. And that's the originality. So, I remember looking back at that. I still think about it because I share it with my students now. I just had another student submit a paper, high originality, and we talk through it. And you don't have to fight it. You can use it as a learning opportunity. Say, yeah, I made a mistake, and I'm going to get better because of it. And that it's not going to define me. It's not going to label me as a problem student. It's going to be something that I'm going to work with my professor on, and I'm going to say, I'm going to make this better. And a lot of it between the professor and student is building that trust, that team relationship. And so really, for me, it comes down to learning from my mistakes, because they don't ever go away. You just figure out how to not make that mistake twice is what it really comes down to. Well,
and I'm glad you brought that up, because it's always interesting to me in my world and what I do, similar to what you do, very similar, pretty much same in many ways, that we have folks that are in this business or want to go into the business, and they want to take shortcuts and they want to try to get around. And a classic example, I was just looking at some planning papers for my students that are planning their doctoral project right now to get ready to start it. And they'll try to sneak in a reference that is less than the caliber that's needed. And they never get it by me typically, but I'll say, why are you doing this? And they said, well, I thought you might not pay attention. I'm like, well, ultimately it's not about whether I pay attention. It's really about, our own ability to have a high ethical standard and a higher standard for our own ability to grow. And it might be painful, right? But ultimately, we all have to go through that. Do you agree with that?
Oh, I do. It definitely comes down to what you do when no one's looking. And, it's kind of interesting. My wife and I, we've been exercising every morning. We get up at 4:45 a.m. and we walk 2 miles in the morning, mostly because that's the only time we really, with 4 kids, that's the only time we're going to find peace and quiet. But really interesting, especially being in the psychological world, I love to observe things. And you'd be amazed, Dr. Rice, at the number of people that run red lights at 4:45 a.m., mostly because no one's around. No one's looking, and so it's easy. And it's just, I think it's a snapshot of society as a whole. And again, I always point the finger back at myself because I'm just as guilty as everybody else, again, trying to learn through this. But yeah, I mean, again, it comes down to taking responsibility and ethically doing the right thing when nobody's looking. I think a lot of times we do things to receive accolades or praise, and that's the wrong reason. Writing a dissertation, going through your doctorate, is a tedious task that not everybody survives. And really, the battle of the fitness is really there in that particular process. And so, yeah, coming down to, are you getting your work done? Are you dealing with the practicum? Are you getting your lit review to the amount of pages that's required and not fluff, but real stuff? And so it comes down to, what you do when nobody's watching, which really will help define your character.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. We've interviewed probably 10 other folks, 8 to 10 people, and that's the first time that's really been brought up. I thank you for that. I guess another question I'd have is, what are some skills that you consider to be essential for success, whether it's in the sport management world or in the sports psychology professional world? What are some skills that, when you're working with your student, you're like, hey, these are 5 things you have to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I do a lot of guest lecturing, and I do a lot of seminars and different things like that. And we all have one of these. These are liquid crack, and everybody's been issued one. Whoever your plug is, you know what I'm talking about. These are liquid crack. Yeah, crack. See. I need more coffee. But honestly, and the problem, here's where I'm going with this is, we get so tied into our electronic devices that we learn the personal relationship skills. And I think anybody that's going to go into the athletic profession needs to understand how to relate to people, need to understand how to connect with people, especially if you're going into sports psychology. I teach, we just started a master's program in sports and performance psychology here at CBU, and we're looking to possibly do one online. But as I teach the practicum courses as a certified CMPC through the Association for Applied Sports Psychology, I share with them, don't get into this profession if you do not have the ability to relate to people, connect to people, build relationships with people. You shouldn't be a therapist. You shouldn't be a consultant. And I don't mean any disrespect, but, I deal with a lot of clients one-on-one here in this office, and you need to get to the heart of what that athlete is going through, that student athlete is going through. And so that takes a trust level, takes a connecting level. So I definitely start with that. A lot of times you need to have the ability to relate. I mean, you're in a people business. Anywhere in sports, you're in a people business. And so if you can't connect to people, you're just not wired that way. You need to take a good look at yourself. You need to have the ability to network, and make good contacts, never burn any bridges. Dr. Rice, you're a good example. I mean, students, as you're watching this, Dr. Rice could have written something. I went, forget him. I never want to deal with him again. You never know where you're going to get connected again, and Dr. Rice, actually, I consulted him when I took my last teaching job, at a location. So you don't burn bridges. You network. You build that network. Third, enjoy what you do. I tell a lot of students all the time, I get paid to watch ESPN every day. Life is wonderful. I'm not complaining. You get paid to watch ESPN. You got to stay up on current events, and current events are ESPN, and understand how to dialogue about that, whether it's sports management, whether it's sports psych. You want to be able to stay up on current events. So we have a wonderful gig of being in the world of athletics. I mean, there's a lot of people that when they find out I work within sports psychology are like, wow, how'd you do that? So it's a great, conversation starter. The last thing I'll leave you with this within the sports world, be ready to move. I deal with a lot of students that they get their degrees in sports management or sports psych, and they think the job's going to be right there in that town. And that just ain't going to happen, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. It's just not. And if you're in the sports world, you need to have a comfort level of being able to go. Change is very difficult. I deal with behavioral change within the sports world all the time within sports psych, and I share a lot with students. You know what? We need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And if you're comfortable with being uncomfortable, then you're more apt when you graduate to say, hey, you know what? I will take that job in South Dakota. I will take that job in Maine. I will take that job in Alaska. I will take that job in, South Texas or wherever you end up going. You've got, athletics is global. I take a group of students to London, every other year, just to experience international sports and give them the mindset that might be where they go and be comfortable with that. So if you're flexible and you're open to new opportunities, you'll be amazed at how your resume grows faster than the person that just says, no, I got my degree and I'm going to stay right here in this town. There might not be that much opportunity. You need to go where the opportunity is afforded, basically. So does that kind of help you?
Oh, certainly it does. All very good points. And I think the part about moving is, and I was literally just thinking about the time that Candy and I were driving through the Phoenix area, and we met you at the truck stop.
That was great. The Triple T.
The Triple T. There you go. Right off the interstate. And we met up and, talked about a lot of the things that was right before your move to Belhaven, and, all this stuff kind of just took off at that moment. But I think that being willing to do whatever it takes and going above and beyond and everything like that makes a huge difference. One thing I wanted to ask you about is when I look behind you at that United States, volleyball jersey, the women's jersey, tell me a little bit about your experience in the Olympics. And so the students and everyone watching can kind of get a sense of, by the way, this guy's done an awful lot of stuff. Talk a little bit about that.
And it brings up a good point that's going to kind of piggyback on some of the things I've shared, Dr. Rice. Having that willingness to go out, that entrepreneur spirit to just kind of seek that Olympic jersey and the Olympics behind me. I've got a whole bunch of other stuff back there. I was in the 96 Summer Olympics with men's and women's beach volleyball. We took gold, silver in men's volleyball. It was the first year beach volleyball was ever an Olympic sport. In 1994, when I was seeking an internship, not a paid internship, wasn't even so much a school internship. I just had a vision and a go-getter kind of attitude. I originally started by trying to get an internship at the University of California, San Diego, UCSD. I was going to work with their women's volleyball program. And someone said, hey, Ed, the men's and women's national volleyball team actually train here in San Diego. Maybe you should go see if you could work with them. And I walked in. And this gentleman right here is that way right there. Okay, you can't see him. That gentleman right there is Mr. Jim Coleman. God rest his soul. He passed away a couple of years ago. But he was the director of the national team there in San Diego. And I walked in, not cocky, not thinking I'm ready to get my Mercedes-Benz in the corner office. I walked in with a servant's heart. And I really walked in. I said, you know what? I just want to be a part of something. And I walked up, I met Mr. Jim Coleman, excuse me, and I said, I'm a student, but I'm willing to learn. I want to soak up all the knowledge. What do you need done? I'll file papers. And for the first month, that's kind of what I did. I filed papers. I helped people out around the office. I gave where I could give. It might have only been 1 hour a week or 2 or 3 hours a week. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that one little selfless act of just wanting to gain knowledge opened up a door where in 1995 I actually dropped out of college for a good reason, because they approached me and said, you know what, we like what you've done. We need a technical assistant with our men's and women's program. Doesn't pay a whole lot. I think I made like $9,000 a year. Okay, it wasn't a whole lot of money, but the experience attached to working with the USA Olympic national program was was well worth the investment. And so I spent 1995 sweating it out, driving all over San Diego, grunt work, not glorified work, just giving everything I could to soak up all that knowledge. In October of 95, the men's head coach, Mr. Fred Sturm, told me that the assistant manager wasn't able to go on the next trip. Would you like to go, Ed? I said, great. Where are we going? They said, Paris, France. Off to Paris, France I went. Here I was a grunt. Spent 2 weeks in Paris traveling with the men's national team. That led to the early beginnings of 1996 where they said, Ed, we need a manager of the Olympic teams. And they paid me to scout foreign competition in Brazil, Spain, Germany, Turkey, London, France, all expense paid. I was in 5-star hotels. I was a U.S. delegate, and then it got me into the Olympics. What's the moral of my story right there? I just made a very intentional act of wanting to get out and find some way I could serve and gain knowledge. I didn't think it would ever lead to the Olympics. I just wanted to gain knowledge. And so I didn't do it because my school told me to. I didn't do it because I was going to get the biggest paycheck. I did it to gain knowledge. And I'm amazed at what hard work pays off, and it really does. And so, yeah, this jersey right here behind me is actually from Peter Blanger. Peter Blanger, one of my jobs with the national team was when visiting dignitaries, the visiting teams would come in, I'd kind of chaperone them. And Peter Blanger is from the Netherlands. Peter Blanger was the starting setter. And as he was leaving in 95, after the 95, might have been 96, I can't remember, 95 I think it was, the tour, Peter and I got to know each other. I said, Peter, can I have your practice jersey? I normally don't do that, but I did. He said, yeah, let me sign it for you. Peter Blanger ended up becoming the MVP of the 1996 Summer Olympics, and they actually won gold medal that year. So that jersey is very important to me. But again, it started by filing papers. It started by just saying, hey, I want to be a part of something, even on a small scale. So encouraging students, wherever you are, whatever town you're in, find a way to just gain knowledge, soak it in without the expectation that it's all about you, because it's not.
Well, one thing I've noticed, Ed, is this: is that a lot of folks that are trying to get into the field these days expect that they're going to get some money out of it or get paid for it. And I'm with you in that, I think you and I have been kind of, in many ways, we have a master's in internships almost in many ways.
That's a great way to put it. I love it.
And I think, for me, I know that without that, I certainly would not be in a position I'm in now, and you certainly wouldn't be either. But, you talked a lot about networking earlier. I mean, obviously, you look around on that wall behind you, a lot of that has to do with you taking a chance and then utilizing that network to possibly climb. Can you talk a little bit about what you do to continue to network?
Yeah, no, it definitely does, and to again, over here I've got some Colorado Rockies stuff. Again, I was the head women's volleyball coach at Colorado Christian University, but women's volleyball pretty much kind of dies out by November, December, and you have off time. You're recruiting, but man, I love baseball. And Coors Field's right there. And when I took that job at Colorado Christian, I really didn't have any intentions of working with the Rockies, but I remember walking in December. I walked into Coors Field into guest services, and I filled out an application. I met with them, and I said, you guys, you know what? I just want to be on the field. That's all I said. And I had a passion behind it. I didn't care. I wanted to be down on the field. I wanted to work in the field. And I ended up getting a job. It wasn't about the money. It was about the experience, learning from Major League Baseball inside a huge organization. And I was on the field. I was a field security. It was great. I was an unarmed field security guard, and I got paid to watch 65 ball games a year sitting on the turf. I mean, it was great. But a great example I'll give you in regards to networking and never burning any bridges, Dr. Rice. So I ended up leaving Colorado and taking a job in North Carolina. And I had spent 3 seasons with the Colorado Rockies, loved working with them, built some great rapport. And so my family and I are driving cross country from Colorado to North Carolina. It's a true story. Okay, students, listen up, please, because don't burn bridges. You just never know what kind of impact you're going to make on somebody. Again, I shared with you before in this in this series. It's what you do when no one's looking that really matters. We're driving into Nashville, Asheville, North Carolina. We're driving into North Carolina, and I get a phone call on my cell phone, and it's actually the Asheville Tourists, which are the single A affiliate baseball team of the Colorado Rockies. And it's the general manager of the Asheville Tourists, and he goes, "Hey, Ed, you got a minute?" I said, "Yeah." And he didn't know I was coming to Asheville in North Carolina for a coaching job. He said, "Hey, I got a call from the big office, the head club, and they said you were coming out to Asheville. Do you need a job out here, Ed?" And it blew me away. The GM of a single A affiliate saying, "Hey, we'll find a job for you because you did so well with the Rockies in Denver. Somebody up there liked what I did and called knowing I was going to Asheville, North Carolina, and said, 'Hey, offer this guy a job. He's worth the investment. You want him on your staff.'" I was blown away. And it was all because I just did my job. I wasn't expecting anything out of it, and that was a neat experience for me. So yeah, you just never know the paths you're going to go down and the contacts you're going to make, but be willing to invest in yourself and in your degree, and you kind of touched on something, Dr. Rice. Keep in mind when you graduate, doesn't mean you're going to go work for the Los Angeles Dodgers or the LA Lakers, or you're going to go work for the NFL. Doesn't mean that. Be willing to start down here to get up here. And sometimes it is a little bit of luck. Sometimes you are in the right place at the right time, but I was willing with my family. God bless my wife. I married up, and she was willing to travel. But through those traveling experiences, just putting us in places where we could invest in athletics and spend times at the bottom and kind of see that career grow. So, be willing to start at the bottom and work your way up. It'll happen if you're diligent with it.
Well, and I think, you talked about networking, and again, some incredible experiences you've shared, and I appreciate those. And the students, anyone that's listening, these are things that, are imperative to your success. Being willing to take a chance, take a risk, go work for free, whatever it might be. And it doesn't have to mean it's forever. It's not like, if that were the case, then you probably need to get another job, right? If that were the case. But you're not going to work for free forever, right? But ultimately, it's the people that you meet, the relationships that you make, and continuing those relationships for years and years, because that's what makes a huge difference. One thing I was going to ask you, it's pertaining to actual presentation. When you're out, say you were talking about guest lecturing and everything, what is the importance of presenting yourself well in this field in terms of being able to climb the ladder or being able to gain respect with those people that you want to gain respect from, that you want to get an opportunity with in sport?
It's a good question. Understanding, knowing we're probably speaking mostly to doctoral students within this, within the world of academia, understand how important writing is. Understand how important communication is, being articulate in your words. And it doesn't mean you have to be eloquent every single time or sound like a Harvard scholar. That's not what we're saying. But in your communication, understanding that you are a learned individual, you are someone that DR before your name better mean you know what you're talking about, and you know how to present yourself in an educated manner. I've met doctors before that you just scratch your head. It's like, really? Did they just give you that DR? Or did you really go through the process? So, as a professor myself, I get students sometimes that go, why are you so hard on me on writing? Because you're probably going to publish someday. You're going to have to do research someday. And if you are speaking to students or you're out there in the public speaking, stereotypically there is that expectation of what a doctoral individual sounds like, and presents themselves, and they are articulate in the way they communicate. It doesn't mean you can't have fun. When I'm talking to my students, sometimes I get a little crazy. Sometimes my southern drawl comes out a little bit. Y'all, you know what I'm talking about? And you make that connection. That's one thing. You need to know your audience. is really what it comes down to. And so if I'm speaking to, like next week, I have to go on main campus, I'm speaking to a group of professors. My conversation with them is going to be a lot different than I am with the softball team, which is going to be different. And so just understanding how to carry a conversation, how to present yourself. It can come back to the good old lessons that we learned from mom and dad, good old ethics, good old principles, of just how, simple behavior, but understanding how to write from a scholarly manner and speak from a scholarly manner definitely pays dividends.
One other thing that, we talked a lot, you go back to 1994, 95, and you compare that time frame to 2019.
Yeah.
And, and the advent of social media and how technology has impacted the world of sport, it's really changed sport, and it's changed the world altogether, really.
Yeah.
But, I guess my question is, how has it changed the world of sport management?
Well,
for that matter.
Yeah, no, I'll be very candid. I'm not a fan of social media. I think we see too many negatives out there. I do not have a Facebook page anymore. I don't have Instagram. I just got rid of Twitter. And maybe that's just because I enjoy doing more face-to-face. My private client base is about 4 to 5 athletes, and most of it's word of mouth. I don't do any advertising off of that. You just have to be careful with your social media. I mean, I know it is what it is. We live in it. It's not going anywhere. I mean, look, Dr. Rice, you and I are making a profession off of media and internet and online and things like that. But a lot of what I teach my students is just understanding that, especially when I was a college coach, the media is never your friend. It doesn't matter how much you want to see your name in the newspaper. You might see one positive, but there's probably 9 negatives associated to it. And you just got to understand within social media as well, anything off of this, just understanding the parameters, understanding how to use it. But you can use it in different ways. You don't have to eliminate all technology. Within the world of sports psychology, there's an app that I use. Let me look it up here real quick. It's called Relax Melodies. And I will have my athletes download that. It's a free app. So I utilize a lot of apps with my athletes dealing with anxiety or confidence or just relaxation. So I do use technology as much as possible, but at the same time I try to limit some of the things because, there may be the misnomer that, I can take it off the internet anytime I want to, and the reality is you can't. It's out there. Even text messaging is not 100% safe. So you need to be careful. That being said, when you go to seek a position, make sure your Facebook looks good, make sure your Instagram looks good, because as an employer, that's the first place I'm looking. I'm going to look you up on Instagram. And having an 18-year-old daughter, she was quick. She's about ready to start college, and the first thing she did when she found out her roommates, she went straight and looked them up on Instagram. So you better believe your employer is going to look at that. So finding everybody's got that balance of how they want to integrate technology within their profession or within what they do. Doesn't mean you have to go as extreme as old man Dr. G here and abandon everything. I've just had some negative responses to that, to where I figured I could put my energy in other areas. It just wasn't benefiting my private practice within sports management or sports psychology to that extent. But other athletes, other students that I've had have had great success with it. So it really depends on how you use it and how you want to use it.
Thanks for that advice. I think a lot of times people in this, especially younger folks, when it comes to the social media side of things, I don't think they completely understand how absolutely damaging it can be to put something on there that is disrespectful or, isn't very professional or whatever, because it is true. And again, you're the first person to say that in the interviews that we've had. I'm going to jump a little bit. I'll have another question about kind of advice that I would, you would give to any sport professional. But I'm going to ask you to kind of talk a little bit about your dissertation from the University of the Rockies and kind of tell the folks at home kind of what you did and what you found out.
Well, I mean, the best advice I received, Dr. Rice, I don't know if it was yours or from one of the other professors, but it was wonderful. I'll still give you credit for it. Is don't try to solve the world with your dissertation. And you've probably heard it if you're in this doctoral program that you're watching this on, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've probably heard that. Don't try to solve the world. And so you start with this big scope, and you're trying to do this with it, and it ends up being about that big, is where you kind of go with it. And it's a tedious process. I think it's the process that really, it's the process that really gets you through it. I mean, it's like boot camp, kind of almost. But my dissertation was more qualitative based than quantitative. I'm very strong in the qualitative side of things, mostly because of the psychological side of the counseling side. I'm working actually on some current research right now that's kind of a mixed method, quantitative, qualitative. But for the dissertation, I knew I wanted the qualitative side. I knew I wanted interviewing. And so that's what I focused on. And I really geared it towards, in the dissertation itself was understanding the parental impact on athletes, the negative impact mostly on athletic performance. And so I was able to find my population. I worked with a girls club volleyball program, 16 to 18-year-old athletes. And I still to this day remember meeting with them and meeting with parents and getting consent forms signed and then recording the interviews. Do you know now, Dr. Rice, this is how times have changed. I remember having to send out my recordings, and I paid $1 a minute to get those transcribed. Dr. Rice, there is now an app, I kid you not, called Voice Recorder that for $4.99, not per transition, but just $4.99, because I just did qualitative interviewing with some of the softball athletes. For $4.99, it'll transcribe all my interviews. It's unbelievable. I could have saved so much money. But anyway, so that was my dissertation. It was really interesting to find out that a vast majority of the athletes had a negative experience of their parents' interactions, the grunting, the pressures the parents put on these athletes to excel in something as simple as volleyball. I would have loved to have looked at baseball and football and basketball, the sports that have a professional league after that. Granted, there is some to volleyball, there is some to an extent, mostly overseas, but not in the realms, the big dollars that baseball, football, and basketball have. So it would have been interesting to go that direction. But it was fun to take it from a large group to narrowing it down to an exact purpose, and I'm very pleased with the way the dissertation turned out.
Well, and it was great, and it obviously, I always feel like the dissertation, or we call it the doctoral project because we have two different types of projects in our program now, but how that is kind of the key to the door to get into because I got my opportunity at University of Rockies because of the dissertation, the applied dissertation I did at the United States Sports Academy, and I believe it makes a huge difference. One thing I was going to ask you, and you touched on it a little bit at the beginning there, talking about it, was, one of the points of advice that you pretty much offered was don't try to solve the world's problems with your dissertation. What are some other, in going through the challenge of the dissertation, so you went through in 2011, 2012, 2013, around that time frame, because you finished it up in 13?
Yes.
Yeah, 2013.
Yep.
And so to the students that are watching this, what are some things that you would tell them, other than what you said earlier about not making this, a world solver, but what are some other things? What are the biggest challenges with the dissertation that you saw, and what can help them get through it?
I think one of the biggest things, Dr. Rice, is do not give up. Don't quit. Within our cohort, I remember one student that quit. I mean, I'll just That student didn't complete it in the time they thought they should, and they walked away from it. And I'm just sitting there scratching my head going, are you serious? Don't quit. You're going to feel like quitting. You really are, especially as you're going through chapter 1, 2, and 3, and you're trying to get IRB approval, and they're telling you no, and make this revision and come. It's part of the process that we all go through. And then you get to your research, which is great because that's like the holy grail. That's where you finally get to put everything to work. And you get this research, and whether it goes the direction you want or not, that's okay. That's research. And then you write up your chapter, and then you put in there, hey, things that you can do better. Other ways that research can take this information and people can run with it. That's awesome. That's academia. That's scholarship. And the biggest thing I can say is don't quit. Don't quit. You're going to feel like you want to, and I share with students all the time. I had 4 kids. My wife was a stay-at-home mom. I had 2 jobs. One of them was a high school teacher. The other one was a full-time official. I never was around. I had scheduled my time to do my coursework and my dissertation, my research. Y'all, I got my dissertation done, I think it was 9.5 months. It wasn't a full year. I got it done. And Dr. Rice knows what I'm talking about. I just, boom, I hammered. I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And you got to have that entrepreneur kind of mindset. You've got to have that go get them. And I know we deal with a lot of laziness in our society. You can't be lazy. You got to commit to the process. And if you're diligent with it, you're going to come out on the other side with flying colors and that wonderful tag after your name and that DR. And, I didn't do my doctoral program to get a DR before my name. That was my father. When you say Dr. Garrett, I turn around and look for my father. But I'll be honest, it's open doors. It's open doors, folks. All that hard work is paid off. And I'm now sitting in a wonderful job at a wonderful university I love. I never work a day in my life. But because of that dissertation, because of that doctorate, it opened up a door here at California Baptist University that I never would have had I not have gone through the process. I would not have been able to be in a position to impact so many students on a regular basis. So, I could say 1,000 different things to that question, Dr. Rice, but the biggest one is don't quit, don't give up. And you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish after you fight through this and make this process work. Don't ever give up.
Oh, great advice. I know that that is one of the biggest challenges because there are, it's around 3 to 4%, maybe even lower, of Americans that earn a terminal degree.
Yeah.
And so there's a reason why it's low. If it were higher,
everybody would be doing it. Yeah, we'd all be getting doctorate.
Right. This isn't something that is, so there are a lot of people that are all but dissertation, ABD, people like you talked about, and it ultimately comes down to what's inside of you and why you truly want to do it. And it can't just be, like you said, it can't just be because you want to, it might be because you want to become Dr. Garrett or Dr. Rice, but it has to be more about what you're going to do with that doctorate or that name or that title, in my opinion. And I think that's something that a lot of times when I'm working with students at Ashford University now, of course, with the Rockies for the last 9 years, it's been that students will run into a wall. I've never seen a single student, never, in committee work or in chair work, that I've seen the student actually go through it smoothly without any rocky, stretches. It's just that way. And I think that, there's a reason it's not out. A lot of people would say it's an ordeal.
Yeah.
But is it? I mean, it ultimately.
Well, my dissertation, I think I think they returned the IRB, my dissertation 3 times. Yeah. I think it was that 4th time that I finally got their blessing. So, and you get that dissertation back from the IRB and they say no, and you're like, oh man. And then you contact Dr. Rice and go, what do I have to do? And Dr. Rice says, do this. And you do that and you return it. And then they go, no, we need something else. Like, are you kidding me? Patience, calm down, relax, understand the process that you're going through, that it's going to make you better on the outside. I think that's also
playing the game too.
True, and understanding, what you're going through is to benefit you. in the long run. And realistically, with your dissertation, you should probably have 2 to 3 publications out of that if you really do it well. So you want to be scrutinized from that standpoint so that when you graduate with it, now you have a natural submission of 2 to 3, publications, which is what, especially if you go in academia, that's what they're going to want. And so it is kind of preparing you for a couple, moments of success once you leave that institution to kind of say, hey, I can publish here, publish here, publish here.
Yeah, good points. And one, as we close, great information for everyone. And it's just, I've learned some things today. Thank you so much, Dr. Garrett. What is one piece of advice that you would give to someone deciding to start a career in sports?
I say a lot to even my children a lot of times, you might want to write this one down, Dr. Rice, but it's a great little saying. If you do the things you need to do when you need to do them, then you'll have time to do the things you want to do when you want to do them. And it's very true. I get a lot of students, especially in higher ed or in the online environment, that maybe are coming back to school for the first time over 20 years. They haven't been back for a while, or they want to start something, stay the course, get in, get dirty, get busy with it, and you'll be amazed if you do the things you need to do when you need to do them. Whether it's homework or sacrificing a little social time because you got to get a paper written. If you do the things you need to do when you need to do them, then you know what? When you get out there, you're going to have time to do the things you want to do when you want to do them. And so, the world of sports is very cutthroat in the sense that it's, again, everybody wants to work for the Colorado Rockies. Everybody does. But one person gets that job. And so as you progress, finding ways to build that vita, finding ways to continue to network and market yourself, I would encourage all of you student-wise out there, get involved with an organization, professional organization. Mine, again, is ASP, the Association for Applied Sports Psychology. In every conference I go to, I'm meeting new people and networking, and eventually you're going to write papers together. And just this last year, Dr. Rice, I had one of my former students that's in Northern California. He's working for a private company dealing in sports, contacted me and said, Dr. G, we've got an opening for a director of sports psychology. You want to take this position? I did nothing. I didn't seek the position. They sought me. So it's kind of interesting being on that side, but it's been a lot of hard work of networking, building contacts, joining professional organizations, volunteering where you can. Again, not just to gain knowledge, but just to give back to the community. I think those are important. So, stay in the course. Understand that time to work with the Rockies will come around at some point, or work with the Dodgers, or work with whatever professional. It will come at some point, and it might be volunteer. That's fine. Volunteer for them. And as long as you're not burning bridges and really caring for people, supporting people, being a people person, you'll be amazed at where that journey goes. So don't ever give up.
Dr. Garrett, is it okay if I include your email in this video?
Please do. Please do. And I'm sure you're going to include a link, but it's just eGarrett, 2 R's, 2 T's, eGarrett, Garrett at calbaptist.edu. I would be more than happy to help any student out there, even if they're not my student. You are a student, and I'm a professor, and I love answering questions and helping individuals just figure out their path and understand how to get where they want to go. Yep, more than happy.
Thank you. And those people are watching, I say this in all the videos. These are folks that are willing to give of themselves, give of their time to help you out. And this is a very vital part, not only of your success, but also gives you a chance to network with new people like Dr. Garrett and others. And, get a chance to talk with somebody who has worked in the Olympics, and someone who has been a head college coach, and someone who's been an athletic director, and someone who's a current professor, and someone with so much incredible experience, not only in sport, but also in life, and taking the risks that it takes and having faith to do so. Mm-hmm. That is something that I think everyone should really consider, that a person like Dr. Garrett's willing to help you out, to reach out to him. Anything to close, Dr. Garrett?
little philosophy. Just understand that the days are long, but the years are short. And what you're going through today is not going to define you. And tomorrow's a new day, which means you get a new opportunity to impact the world and change the world in the direction you want to go. Understand we're all one big bowl of fruit salad, which means we all bring a little flavor to life and appreciate what other people bring to life. That's what makes sports unique. That's what makes life unique, and that's what I enjoy about what I do. So I wish you guys all the best in your career and your dissertation and your doctoral studies. And if I can be of any service, that's what I'm here for.
Dr. Ed Garrett, truly one of the top people we've ever had come through the University of Rockies Doctor of Psychology program in any area of the program, especially the SBP program. And I am so thankful to have the friendship and the connection with you. Thanks so much for taking time today. And we really, truly appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
All right. And so as we close this interview, look forward to seeing you on the next one. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to Dr. Garrett, reach out to me, and hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. Take care.